Welcome to EISD 6160 and 8160, Designing Learning Systems with Simulation and Game Technology. This is our Week 5E lesson. As a quick overview of this week's module, just like last 2 weeks, I have placed all the readings and resources in one document. Under the readings section, I want you to please read through each of those carefully. You really need to develop a good sense of what is in the module for this week. Because through the readings, I'll give you an overview here in this e-lesson, but really a lot of the content is in those readings, so be sure to do those. Also, we have one assignment for this week, and that is to summarize the ARG discussion that you will hopefully get a lot out of through our readings and our e-lesson. That's pretty much the quick overview of the module for this week. So we're going to be talking about ARGs this week, and ARGs can a couple of definitions there. You'll hear them called augmented reality games. You'll hear them also called alternate reality games. The book on your right there is one of the really good text out there about this. That book, I've got it and have gone through it. It's about 300 pages. It doesn't look that big when you look at it, but it's a huge book. It's called This Is Not a Game, and it all goes around the idea that games are going on all around you. This game in particular is going on all around you, even if you're not aware of it. The basic premise is that an ARG will somehow change or alter our perception of reality through the game or the game design principles. So what it means when I say that is that I'm looking at the world around me, but there's a game in here, but I don't know that unless I'm playing the game. And so this is where you take normal everyday things and you turn them into games for people to accomplish a specific goal, a task. Some people would call these tremendous multimodal scavenger hunts, because in a lot of ways that's what they are. ARGs can be a way to gamify your life. For instance, by creating a game out of household chores. There's one called Chore Wars. A long-term memory recovery, which is called Super Better, or an exercise one. There are all kinds of ARGs you can create. And what I want to show you is first in these readings and stuff, what they are, what an actual ARG is, because it takes a while to wrap your brain around the idea that people design things that exist in normal everyday world, but you wouldn't see them or recognize them unless you were looking for them. And then talk about what you actually could do with these things. Many ARGs use QR codes and geocaching as part of them, so I tossed that in here also. We'll be looking at specifically what those are and how you can use those as part of an ARG or in just by themselves in general. We'll specifically talk about QR codes in just a second, but geocaching is about using a high-tech scavenger hunt, if you will. People take and hide boxes that contain objects in them. Specifically, they always leave a notepad that you can sign, and they hide them with GPS coordinates. You go online to geocaching.com or other websites, you see where people hid these, you download the location, and then you use your GPS to go find them. Once you find it, you write your name in the box and you close up the box and hide it again for the next geocacher. Those are some things that are going on with geocaching. Again, there's some good readings and videos in your readings for this week that you can get a good handle on that. I did want to give you a little brief presentation on QR codes because I don't have a whole lot in our actual readings for those. But again, an ARG is the big picture of the week. What are those things and how are people using them? They can be great tools for teaching and learning. They really can be, because they happen in your normal setting, using your normal everyday things, websites that you normally go to, things that you would normally do. That's how they happen. So they can be really, and have been really used well to encourage and motivate people to obtain goals and stuff. So very quickly, I want to take. So as we begin, we're going to look at a couple of definitions. First, we're going to talk about the difference between augmented reality versus virtual reality. In virtual reality, this is an artificial computer-generated simulation or recreation of a real-life environment. You are placing the user inside of a virtually created environment and then attempting to make them feel like they are experiencing what is being simulated before them as reality. Then in augmented reality, what you're really doing is you're taking the real world and you're laying a virtual world on top of that so that you're able to see the real and the augmented at the same time. So it's kind of like, if you want to think about the word augmented, also kind of means enhanced. So what you're doing is you're seeing things that you don't normally see unless you are in that augmented reality. So when you've seen these things like Google Glasses, so I can look through those glasses and I can see the real world, but I can also see what time it is. I can see who's emailing me. I can see all these things overlaid on top of that. You can take your cell phone, you can point it at lots of objects, and if they have been placed in augmented reality situations, then that cell phone is going to show you stuff that's not visually appearing to the regular eye, but when you look through the cell phone camera, now it shows you all the other stuff. Those are augmented reality. Again, it's like mixing the two together. So we're going to talk more about the tools to create these things later, but these things are becoming easier and cheaper than ever to produce. Right here on the example I have is like Google Cardboard. It's a cheap way of doing virtual reality. You put your cell phone inside of these little Google Cardboard viewers, and you're able to create experiences for the person so that they can look left, look right, and it actually moves and makes them feel like they're inside of there. It's very important to read about these things in your readings for this week so that you can get a feel for what's going on with these different types of tools. So with a good look and a good start on ARGs, let's look at you through a little bit about QR codes and geocaching. Again, these two kind of go together. These two types of activities using QR codes and geocaching are a natural way to create games that exist in a natural world and that happen all around, but we're not aware of it. They've been around for a while, but the growth in technology has made these things much easier to create and very less sophisticated for a very small amount of money that you can do this with now. Like I said, geocaching is real-world outdoor treasure hunting using GPS-enabled devices. Participants basically navigate to a set of GPS coordinates, and then they attempt to find the geocache container hidden at that location, like I told you about. And again, there's some nice videos in there. So we're going to talk about QR codes for a quick second here. QR codes are also known as quick response code. That's what the QR stands for. They are a two-dimensional barcode. Also, you can see these oftentimes as similar to a barcode itself that you would see on an item in a grocery store or something like that. They will work in they store more information than your typical barcode does though. And because they can be read up and down and left and right or horizontal and vertical instead of just horizontal, they can store in more information. These are the new QR codes that you'll see around now. They are similar to barcodes, but now this is what I'm talking about when I talk about a QR code. They're found all over the place. You can find them on boxes, on advertisements, in magazines, all kind of places. And basically, you can make these little QR codes do anything when someone scans them with a phone or with any type of device that will read a QR code. And what these things are going to do is they're going to allow you to actually embed some stuff into different items and articles, etc. You'll need a QR scanner in order to read the code. You can download these from most mobile technologies. Examples would be some different types that are out there would be things like at the iTunes store you can get Scan or QR Code City. For your desktop, if you have a simple webcam, you can also download something like iCandy and use it to take QR codes and scan them in. When you scan in a QR code, then you're going to be able to take someone to a website for more information or send them a direct information like text through there or take them to a picture. So the question is, I just want to quickly show you some examples of how teachers or trainers are using these things. Some examples are polls and feedback, class newsletters, so that when I send out a newsletter, it has a little QR code that I can scan and get more information. Students who might miss class. Or polls and feedback, you can put a QR code out there and let someone scan it and they can join the meeting, or they can take a poll. Some examples here also are of books in a library where students went and they recorded themselves doing a review of the library book, and then on the back they pasted this QR code where students in the library now can scan that code and hear another student describing or summarizing that book. Also here, if you scan this, you could be taken to a example of other student work that's up on the bulletin board, but they didn't have enough space for all of it. Supplementary material for enhancing or extending lessons, if you want more information, so to speak. Self-check assignments, where students are able to, or learners are able to check and see if they got something right by simply scanning the barcode. Here's an example of the QR, a periodic table of elements, where if you scan any one of these, it's going to give you all various information about that specific element. So these are some different examples of QR codes. And lastly, you have like a scavenger hunt, where people will go around and scan the codes and be taken different places. And once you scan it, it'll tell you to go to a certain location, or it'll give you a website that tells you information and then tells you where to go next. These again are very typical ways of how people are using them in ARGs, which is why I included them in our week for this week to talk about, because people do use them so much to use in nowadays with ARGs. Watch the video on shopping with QR codes, because it really helps you bring light to this. In our country, QR codes did not catch on quite as they did in other countries, and they still may, but they are not quite as big as they are in other countries. So watch that video about shopping with QR codes. It's in our links for this week. You can make your own QR codes very simply. The one I like the best is called QR Stuff. That's qrstuff.com. It'll basically, when you go there, you type in what you want it to do, like leave a message, go to a website, bring up a picture, whatever it is. There's a myriad of choices of things you can make a QR code do when someone scans it. You simply choose that and then send someone to there immediately after they scan it. These are free. You can make mugs and all kind of things out of them, but it's free to just use and download the code. That's called qrstuff.com. And a final reminder also to look for the information that I'm going to ask for you about your final project coming out in the announcements this week. That's it for our e-lesson this week. I hope you have enjoyed the time you're going to be able to spend in our readings and going through this as we learn more about augmented reality games.